Grazing cheatgrass. Well, in the springtime, cheatgrass is green, it's growing, it's very nutritious, and animals will eat it quite readily. There's been some research work that's been published on that, and it works really well. The problem, though, with it is on a large scale, there's a lot of logistic issues with it. From one year to the next, you don't know when the cheatgrass is going to be there so animals can begin grazing it. But in the fall, after the seed heads mature and after the seeds drop, cheatgrass becomes palatable again, and grazing animals will eat it quite readily.
Our goal is to use cattle in the fall to reduce that standing biomass of cheatgrass. And so we're using protein supplement, but we're also looking at strategically placing supplement and moving it certain areas of the pasture to therefore create essentially a fire break.
Cheatgrass, after it's dry in the fall, in September, October, November, and even on into the winter months, the classic opinion is that it didn't have any nutritional value, for one thing, and the other thing is that cattle wouldn't eat it. They just wouldn't eat it because it had no nutritional value, and it may have had some seed heads still on it. We knew from just being around in Nevada and observing things that we know that cows eat it in the fall, and we thought maybe we could take advantage of that if we could entice them to eat more of it and eat it where we wanted them to eat it. We thought we could exploit that grazing behavior, and so that was what our original attempt was. And as you can see, we're standing here at our third exclosure in the pasture, and you can see that the fuel load is pretty low. We hit our target rate last fall with the cattle, and this is what it looks like in the spring now that we've removed all of that cheatgrass biomass. So we don't have any, we don't have 400 or 500 pounds of cheatgrass fuel that would be carried over into this growing season and this fire year.
We've had some fairly good results. Like I say, it's 6,000 acres, but we're also using 800 head of cows, which is, looking at it on a research basis, a very large study using that many cattle. And so what we've been able to see is that we've dropped it from about 500 pounds per acre to under 100 pounds per acre of cheatgrass on a lot of these areas of standing biomass.
The big issue with it is its flammability. And there's two issues with that. One issue is it dries out earlier than our perennial grasses, and so the fire season begins earlier in the season, and then it just adds to that fuel continuity. It can be very dense, whereas most of our native perennial grasses are bunch grasses and there's spacing in between the plants. With cheatgrass, the spacing can be very, very small, and so the fuel continuity is much greater with it than it is with our native perennial grasses.
Which is important when we look at it from a wildlife standpoint, is we can strategically graze in specific areas that have a lot of cheatgrass that are close to areas that don't have a lot of cheatgrass that we want to preserve from that fire. Sage-grouse is the key one, but there are several sagebrush obligate species that the habitat goes down once that cheatgrass comes in and infests an area. I think the most important thing is that we both want native, healthy sagebrush ecosystems. And that's the goal, and we might be looking at different ways of going about that, but I think we need to keep open all our tools to use. With cheatgrass coming into an area, it changes the game. With cattle, we can use that as a tool to target the grazing on that specific invasive species. And our goal is to limit the competitive advantage of cheatgrass and increase the competitive advantage of perennial native vegetation.
Grazing animals are really our best tool that we have available to reduce these fuels on really large acreages.